to an episode of the Butterfly Throne podcast. I'm your girl. Ugh, I'm the host Star, and welcome back. Um, Today I'm just gonna recap two Raws and now, and what I mean by that, I'm gonna recap March 9th episode of um Raw, as well as um, SmackDown on the 13th and Raw on the 16th. So yeah. Um, but if you're listening, thank you for listening. If you've been following me on social media, thank you for following me on social media. And bear with me as I'm trying to get through this whole podcast situation. Again, this is like my first time doing it. So yeah, yeah. But thank you anyways. And thank you for your support. Let's get right into it. Um, we're gonna start with the March 9th episode of Raw, where you have the opening of Adam Pearce and Seth Rollins, as well as Seth Rollins and his mass men, Merry Mass of Men's. Um, Basically, I'm assuming that these guys are part of Seth Rollins' school, and so they're part of the whole entourage of masked men and this storyline they're going with that and whatnot. But basically, Adam Pearce wanted answers from Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins didn't really do too much talking or literally no talking at all. Basically telling him that as much as I get your dislike for the vision, that you're not medically cleared. And what happens if you are able to escape or run away from the vision and it catches you? This is going to lead you to get hurt even more. And so, not so long after that, you had Theory and douchebag Logan Paul come out. Um, I'm assuming talking shit. It's been a while since I've seen it. But basically coming out. And then eventually LA Knights and the Usos interfere. And basically taking Austin Theory and Logan Paul out of the picture. Um, but yeah. They basically talk about Paul Heyman and basically what Seth did to Paul Heyman the week prior, which at this point, whatever. And then follow that, you had the women's gauntlet match um, with Bayley, Lara Valkyrie, Raquel Rodriguez, Oscar, Ivy Now, and Io Sky. It's a decent match. Even though I still blame Liv for costing Raquel. To be honest, she made me costing her a lot, and I don't know if they making it so that Raquel doesn't notice or pay attention, or whatever the case might be, which is crazy work if you ask me. But yeah, followed by Bayley ended up winning that. She will go on later for the following Raw to face AJ for the IC champion. Not to say I don't have no problems with Bayley winning. Honestly, I feel like it's Bayley time to push her stuff further, especially as a face now, considering that they gave her the push when she was a heel. And it's as a face too when she became champion after the damage control turned on her. But still, I feel like they're using Bayley as a person to get over other superstars and younger superstars, which I have no problem with that. But also don't disrespect her by assuming that's all she's certified with that. She is not. And so I feel like that's a slap in the face. I wouldn't be surprised if if Bayley doesn't resign once her contract expires, and eventually she joins Monet at AEW. I mean, I will not judge it at all because she deserves the world and deserves better than what are you currently doing. but that's just me and how I'm feeling. Um, you have other segments in between that. You had the Judgment Day turn on Finn Balor. Basically, Dom was still upset for the week prior of losing the IC champion to Penta, and that he was mad that um, he asked JD to get the hammer so he can basically cheat. And Finn told JD no, he wanted to do it on his own. Let him do it on his own. And I guess Finn been avoiding him for a week into that Monday, and asking him to explain himself. And basically, he's like, I will call myself trying to help you. Say you wanted to do it on your own. We let you do it on your own. Uh, he said some other stuff too, but he like, maybe your father was right. Maybe you're a piece of shit, basically. And Finn, Dom got offended by that, pushed Finn, and to the point where Finn ended up kicking him. And then eventually, the whole Judgment Day turned on Finn, leaving him in the middle of the ring, being stomped out, basically. So yeah, that's gonna be an interesting storyline. Because that following week, or that Saturday of that week, you had Dom faces I forgot his name from Triple I or from Triple A, but yeah. So basically, that stipulation is basically like if Dom loses, he cannot compete for he cannot be in Triple A at all. And then vice versa, if Dom wins, the other guy cannot compete for that championship as long as I'm assuming as long as Dom is champion. But I digress. Dom ended up winning that, by the way, which I feel like they could have wrapped that into the storyline now of having Finn to cost Dom to lose. But that's just me and how I would have wrote it. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of interested in how they're gonna write the story out because I feel like Finn should have been left the Judgment Day, and I feel like this man has been Universal Champion or champion within almost it's not 10 years, almost 10 years, and him having to relinquish it due to a shoulder injury within that 24-hour period. And I feel like you had ever since he got healed from that and came back from that, you had the plenty of time to continue to make Finn the top star he was at that moment, but chose not to. And I put that on Vince as well as Triple H because you had a plenty of opportunity, and then now you're giving the fans the push, giving the fans what they want, and pushing him at the moment by making him a face. And I feel like this is more of the Jey Uso slash Kofi Kingston of, give the fans what they want, so get shut the fuck up about it. If I'm being honest, I mean, if I'm wrong, y'all can correct me or not, but this is how I feel. Then you had the segment where Americano versus Danhausen, the OG Americano versus Danhausen, and basically the OG Americano being kind of like dismisses and Danhausen, and Danhausen cursing him and whatnot. So it's supposed to be Penta versus the OG Americano, but for some bad reason, the current Americano came out and faced Penta for the IC champion, and Penta ended up retaining his title, winning. I can't remember. I know that was a segment between Natty and Maxine, and where Maxine attacked Natty after that little promo. But yeah, the closing of that episode of Raw was CM Punk and the Usos. Um, Basically, CM Punk talking shit about Roman like he normally do, about him being a part timer, about him, um, basically the same old shit, but even the same old. Being a part timer and barely being there, and only showing up whenever he feels like, and how he's the true champion and whatever the fuck case might be. And this also happened to be when the Usos came out and demanded CM Punk to apologize for what they said about their uncle. And Punk thinking that Roman sent the Usos out to talk to him. Both the Usos, Jimmy and Jay, both said that they didn't come out here for Roman. Roman did not send them. This ain't about Roman. You can talk about Roman all you want to. This ain't got shit to do with him. This got to do with everything to do with our family and the respect that you disrespected our uncle by putting him in this conversation that didn't have nothing to do with him. Jimmy also said that he respected Punk. That not only you say what's on your mind, you don't run from it, you don't hide from it, you don't go around it, you go right through it. Saying that you created this model of becoming the voice of the voiceless. And he's like, how can you be the voice of the voiceless when you're bringing up somebody who doesn't have a voice because he's no longer here? Which I respect that. And then I also can't really shade too much of Punk because as much as I'm a Roman fan, and those who know me know that I'm a Roman fan, know that everything that Punk said was true. From the mistreatment of his cousins and his family to bringing up Cody, father, whatnot. In which I feel like it would make more sense if it was more of Cody versus Roman for Mania Part 3. Which we know all didn't want that, let's be honest. But I digress. But it'd make more sense for Cody to bring up his father instead of Punk because this have nothing to do with it. The only reason why Punk brought up the father was because he got mad because basically Roman called him old, saying he was gonna retire him. You know what I mean? So yeah. And then both Jimmy and Jay not trying to hear that, saying I'm not trying to hear all the stuff that y'all got going on between each other. We want you to apologize. And what seemed like he was going to apologize didn't turn out to be an apology. He said, I'm sorry that Roman managed to fool you, hit the whole Samoan culture or family, as well as the fans and the audience, to believing that he's the good guy or whatever the fuck case might be. And that he sent his two boys out. I forgot the term he used. But yeah, I don't like that term he used. I don't know why. I feel like it's an underhanded tone. You know what I mean? Where you can correct me. You can agree and comment if you want. If it sound like kind of like a racial undertone, or maybe that's just me picking up on it like that. But yeah, when he said young boy, like, that's some shit, that undertone where you get from the palm color person when they call you boy. It just don't sit right with me, and then maybe that's just me. But I digress. And basically used the mic and pushed Jay. Jimmy felt it was disrespectful and clocked Punk across the chin, whatever case might be, and they exited the ring. That was the end of that March 9th episode. And then you have the SmackDown of March 13th. So basically, that segment started off, or that SmackDown started off with Nick Aldis and Drew McIntyre, how he felt that Nick basically screwed him by putting him in a match with Cody and having him losing to Cody for him to become champion. Uh, Jacob ended up coming out saying that, let's keep it real 100. I'm the one who cost you, not Nick. He said, I corrected the issue. You were champion because of me, and now you're champion because of now you're not champion because of me. And that was just correcting myself. And then him going off not only on Jacob but to Nick, and eventually telling Nick that he quit and left the arena. Um, then there was a match between Uncle Howdy and Eric Rowan versus Solo and Tala Tonga. Which, to be honest, I don't know why they named him Tala Tonga. So, like why you couldn't just keep him Hikalea? Because I know they're confused. I've seen other people confuse Tala Tonga with Tama Tonga, and it's kind of like they're two different people. But the names are kind of like similar, so I can see the tongue tied when it comes to that. Which ended up which Uncle Howdy and Eric Rowan winning. What's her name? Nikki Cross ended up taking the lamp from the ringside and giving it to Uncle Howdy, and eventually someone came up behind him, gave him the cutthroat, took the lamp back, and exited the ring with the MFTs. Then there was before that one. I'm sorry with the order, but yeah, before that one, it was Jade versus Michin. And I think it was for, I don't remember if it was for the women's champion or not for the women's champion. I'm assuming it was for the women's champion. With Jade ended up defeating Michin, as we all know what's going to happen. Let's be honest. No shade to Michin, but we knew that was going to happen. And then there was another women's match of Irritating Tiffy, or in Chelsea term, Tacky Time, versus Kiana James. For the number one contender, I guess for the number one contender for Julia's United States champion. I don't get me started. For some apparent reason, I never liked Tiffany from day one since she came across SmackDown. Because at the time, I never watched NXT to even not like her there. But ever since she came on fucking SmackDown, I don't know, it's her voice or something, but it's like nails on a chalkboard. But I do not like that lady. She's like the hybrid baby of Charlotte Flair and Trish Stratus. If you ever look at her, it's yeah. And you could tell that's one of Vince's girls in a way that he would push her to the moon if he could. Not that we didn't want that motherfucker back, I'm just saying. And then you have the women's tag team match with Alexa and Charlotte versus Lash Legend and Nia Jax for the tag team titles, which was a pretty good match, even though Nia and Lash pretty much dominated the match. And then Nikki and the Do Nothing Bellas came out, at least before the match even started, by the way. The Do Nothing Bellas sat at ringside the whole entire time, setting them off, basically letting them know whoever wins this match we got next, which I feel like the next stop you should go is back home and off my damn TV, if I'm being perfectly honest. But I digress. The match ended in a disqualification because the Bellas interfered instead of just waiting a fucking turn. But that's neither here nor there. That's honestly, I feel like that's a bathroom break, especially anything that the Bellas involved. But yeah, um, then there was the Jacob versus Trick William match with basically that whole match started with because of Jacob talking to Nick about the whole Drew situation and that he wanted to get his hands on Drew, that he did shit Nick way and it didn't go the way he wanted, etc., etc. That he gonna handle the shit basically on his own way. Trick interrupted, talk shit to Jacob. Nick made it a match for them. Trick ended up winning that due to interference by Drew, who came back and basically Claiborne Jacob, which is safe to say that he didn't entirely quit. We already kind of know he didn't quit. But I digress. So this like now next Friday or this coming Friday, you have Jacob versus Drew. And then for us to close out SmackDown was Cody and Randy's contract signing for Mania, where if I'm being honest with this, Randy turned on Cody, and I feel like slightly was justified. I mean, they currently don't got no story or no storyline why he turned on him, but let's be honest, Cody been a shitty ass friend. The way, if you ever think about it, because mind you, he was both friends with Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. And Kevin Owens ended up turning on him. Why? Because Cody ended up associating himself with Roman Reigns. Basically teaming up with him not only at Bad Blood, but at Survivor Series. And it's kind of like, I can see that because, mind you, at Bad Blood, Roman did not ask for Cody help. Cody stuck his nose in the business that didn't belong, which ended up causing a feud between him and Kevin Owens, which was basically about the bloodline in general, and how basically Roman tormented Kevin Owens for dinner for years while he was champion and whatever the case may be. So you to be my friend and team up with my op is crazy work. And then the same thing for Randy. If y'all remember the bloodline, the OG bloodline, which is the Usos, Sammy, Solo, Roman, and Paul Heyman, basically took out RK Bros and leaving Randy to be injured and out of action for 18 months and some change. And so he came back. Not only he came back and putting people on notice, but to find out that one of your friends or one of the people who you trust, teaming up with your op and that op who helped take you off for 18 months is diabolical. So I won't be surprised if they reinitiate that as a reason why he did what he did. Because you keep finding ways to team up with the fucking op. And it's kind of like, for basically 2 years in a row, if I'm not mistaken. Because not only you team up to him at Bad Blood, but you team up with Survivor Series along with Punk. But still, and it's kind of like, why are you even into this? It's like, y'all can't think of shit else for Cody to do besides keep putting him in the bloodline storyline. I mean, yeah, I get it. And some may agree to disagree that, Cody ain't shit without the bloodline story. You know what I mean? And I feel like Cody Crybabies is gonna say some shit, but let's be honest. His whole title reign, ever since he got the motherfucker, for the first time, was been about the bloodline or Roman in some way, shape, or form. At the moment, it's currently about Randy, but I won't be surprised if they recirculate that storyline of him teaming with Roman in the bloodline at Survivor Series as well as Bad Blood. So who knows? I mean, Randy will give his answer on Friday, but yeah. But other than that was the closing out moment, and I feel like a lot of people got happy. There was no booing Randy Orton when he turned on Cody. If I'm being honest, mostly there was a loud pop. There was cheering going on, which was diabolical. We as wrestling fans are toxic, and I agree. That's a toxic situation. To cheer for a man getting his ass whooped, getting blooded up, and whatever case might be, and then fucking Jelly Roll sticking his nose in the business, like, brother, you're a fan at this moment. Go sit your ass down. I don't give a fuck if these is your friends. Go sit your ass down. You know what I mean? We don't need you there. Why are you there? And not only he pushed Jelly Roll, but he pushed Nick Aldis too. So, but I was here for it. Then there was a cinematic shot of him sitting in the ring with the WWE Championship. Like, yeah, I'm gonna get this, and I hope he actually does get number 15 with that, and not Triple H playing in his face or playing in our face by not making him champion. I'm just saying, and I think the only reason why they doing this because they trying to get the fans what they want, and also trying to compete with AEW in some way, shape, or form, is to not only have the mentor versus the mentee at a Mania. But I digress. But yeah, that was the ending of that SmackDown of Randy turning on Cody. Basically, whipping his ass out of his shoes, which was hysterical. And then let's get to yesterday's Monday Night Raw for episode 6. So yeah. Yesterday started off with Seth Rollins with the segment. Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman kicked off the show. Basically, Seth is saying that I'm the one who created the vision, and I'm going to be one who tear down. And if you're ever associated with the vision, you in a way as well. You will get it as well. And then him talking about how he stumped Paul Heyman's head and hit him with the chair in the back, etc., etc. Paul came out looking like his ass got beat up by a boxer or some shit. To being perfectly honest, it was hilarious. Brock eventually came out, basically suplex and tear through all Seth Rollins' masked men in order to try to get to him. So them being faced off in the ring. And then eventually the lights went out and Obafemi came out. Obafemi came out to the ring. Him and Brock looked at each other. Him looking at Seth and make sure Seth don't try to do nothing. Seth slowly walks to the fucking the situation. Brock basically looking at him like, if you don't back the fuck up. Seth left. By the time Brock turned around, Obafemi picked his ass up like he was a little ass kid and hit him with a fall from grace. Which I was kind of clapping for that too. But I don't mind the whole Oba versus Brock for Mania, because now that Obafemi challenged him or accepted his challenge, I just want him to be able to beat Brock Lesnar and not using Brock Lesnar as a way to beat up Obafemi, which is a disrespectful. You know what I mean? So that's just me. But if you keeping him to fight Brock Lesnar and he wins, cool. Then avenge Kofi Kingston and all the other motherfuckers that they use Brock Lesnar to tear down, whether it was black or whatever. Yeah, get their revenge. And I feel like this should be good. But yeah, I'll be pissed. Also, on the side note, I also heard that it's supposed to be Royce Keys and Jelly Roll versus Danhausen and I don't know if it was LA Knight or somebody else. I'm not sure. That match is a bathroom break, if I'm being honest. The fuck out of here. Um, Next you had the OG Americano versus the current Americano. With the Los Americanos intending with him, with the second Americano winning due to the help of the Los Americanos. Mind you, Chad ripped his pants. I don't know if anybody noticed that. And I was like, if only that was theory. If only that was theory, but I digress. But yeah. And then there was Roman showed up. Roman basically out the car, greeted by the Usos and him grabbing the camera and saying something about Punk or whatever. Basically telling all the Samoans that if you happen to get your hands on Punk, do as you please, basically. But the week of Mania, leave him to me. Then there was the AJ Lee versus Bayley for the IC champion. Honestly, I feel like this was AJ's first match on Raw since March 2015. But I think it's like a 10 to 12. No, I think it was like a 10 to 12 year gap. But yeah, I feel like she did better in the ring this time around in ways than she did the first two times she was in the ring, and which was both PLEs of Summer. No, of what's the other wrestle something the WWE had last year? But put it in the comments because maybe I'm forgetting. But I know it's wrestling something. It was after SummerSlam. But yeah, and then the current one that they just had recently, which was the Elimination Chamber. With AJ winning that one and retaining her title. Then there was a Liv promo about Finn Balor and how this was a part of her plan from the beginning since she joined Judgment Day, was to not only help turn Dom, Raquel, JD on against Finn Balor because they feel like he was the leader or whatever the case might be. And she was like, she's seeing how Finn was working and trying to plot and shit like that, and how all this was her plan. And I feel like Finn is gonna get his get back. Not only he's gonna feel like he's gonna screw Dom at some point, but I feel like he's gonna screw Liv too if Raquel doesn't do it. If Raquel is not in this triple threat match for the Mania with Liv, I feel like Finn should definitely be the reason why she loses. I lose something, you lose something. It is what it is. And then you have Penta in open challenge for the IC champion. And the person who answered the call was Dragon Lee. That was a good ass match as well between the two, which resulted in Penta retaining his title. I would definitely give that match a 6.5. I know I didn't rate the other ones, and I'm just saying that was like a 6 and a 7, between a 6 or a 7, for being perfectly honest. Then that was the Maxine versus Natty match, which again I really don't care for that. I'm kind of tired of this little beef that got going on. In all honesty, wrap that shit up. Then there was a backstage segment between LA Knight and the Usos. But before that, there was a prior segment between the Usos and Roman of how Jay said, I'm surprised you didn't deck him. I would have decked him right in on the spot. And that Jimmy's like, it's the time and the place for everything. That he hit Punk last week and he mind doing it again if the opportunity presents itself. And then LA Knight basically told him that if this is your way of having the bloodline come back together, and you to me y'all team up with Roman again, I cannot support that. But if we've been doing what we're doing so far and we all on the same page against the vision, then I'm for you. We should leave in him and Jimmy to do a fist bump, and Jay being Jay, if whatever. Um, the main event of that night was Stephanie versus Raquel. Uh, and basically, Io came out to help Raquel, even though not Raquel, Stephanie, even though Raquel basically just took her out as soon as she got there. If I'm being honest, and then Stephanie also took out Liv in the process, which ended up leaving Stephanie to win against Raquel. Um, yeah, that's gonna be an issue at some point. All right, we already know there's gonna be a tension or issue between Liv and Raquel. The question is, if they're gonna do it before or after Mania. It's the question. And then there was a closing segment between Roman and Punk. Now that was hilarious because you have Roman coming out to acknowledge the crowd, etc., etc., and then him telling Punk to come out. Him teasing the fans and what case might be. Roman teasing the fan, but whatever case might be. Punk came out looking like as if he should enter the ring or not. And basically Roman telling him, say what's on your mind, say what you need to say, whatever the case might be. Punk like, I'm surprised you ain't hit me. And then he trying to go lower by keep assaulting Roman. Roman having no chance to even think that he's getting to him. Because Punk keeps saying, I've got into you, I got your number, I'm in your head. Which, be honest, Roman even said it. I don't have a triggering spot. And if I did, you couldn't find it. And it's kind of like for you, I feel like I agree with one of the people I follow on TikTok. She said that when Punk tried to get a reaction out of Roman, he tried to get a reaction out of the Roman he remembers before he left, which was in his Shield, of trying to get a reaction out of him in certain ways, trying to get him to lash out. He wasn't been there when you had the Golden Glove Roman Reigns, the head of the table Roman Reigns, the smash and stack them all and stuff like that. The needle mover. I feel like he haven't been introduced to that because that Roman is different than the Roman he remembered. And I feel like Roman handled that the best way he possibly can of not giving Punk what he wanted. And to prove that you're not in my head, he told CM Punk has a head full of hair, but like we ain't see that spot in his head at some point. I'll be perfectly honest. But basically what triggered fucking Punk was when Roman called his ass old. That set him off. He clocked Roman. Roman sat on the ground laughing at him. Like, what it took for me to call you old to set you off. You had the security trying to hold Punk back, and etc., etc. And he said, he talking all that shit, saying that he's in my head. But let's be honest, I'm in his head. Da-da-da-da. And I'm like, I totally agree. Because not only this the second time Roman basically called you old and you get offended by it. Because 2 weeks or 2 or 3 weeks prior to that, he said he was going to retire your ass, send you to NXT where you can help develop the talent so they can come up to the main roster so he could smash them all. You got offended about it and brought up his daddy. This week, he called you old, you punched him in the jaw, and was mad. Now, granted, they both in their 40s. Roman is 40, Punk is being close to 50. But I was like, is he lying though? Because motherfucker, you is old. Sorry, not sorry. But yeah, you are old. You at that age. And I like how Roman, it was like, people who make a certain amount of money and are part-time. Basically referring to not only himself, but referring to CM Punk's wife, AJ Lee, who's part-timer as well, making money. And I feel like that is true. So you didn't get mad when he brought up I forgot what he brought up the first time, but you didn't get mad when he mentioned AJ. You only got mad when he mentioned that your ass was old. Man, if you don't sit your old ass down somewhere, man, it's true. And I feel like it's crazy. That's all it takes for me to call you old and you go the fuck off. It's crazy work. Cause honestly, if I was Roman, pardon me pettiness, I would have digged up the dead dog, brought it to Raw, or even went low and brought up the damn dog or some shit. But yeah, I digress. But yeah, I feel like Roman saw it on his face when he called his ass. He was gonna retire him last time. As a yeah. So overall, it was a good segment. You know what I mean? Check out my third shop videos on TikTok. I'll go by the name of Star88. But yeah, I digress. But thank you for listening to for me rant about Raw and SmackDown. And this is my opinion and my thoughts of it. Um, I don't know when I'm gonna do another episode of episode 7. I will let you know. Hopefully, I will post it soon. If I don't do like a spread of a moment type of thing. And this podcast is not just about wrestling; it's about entertainment as well. So, but yeah, thank you for listening to me rant. And if you're not following me on my social media, my TikTok name is Star88. Follow me on there. On Instagram at StayBeautiful27. And then, yeah, follow me here. Like, share, subscribe. And yeah, I will try to drop as many episodes as I possibly can. Again, this is not a weekly or day-to-day podcast. It's more like a spur of the moment podcast. So yeah, thank you. I'm doing this off my phone, by the way. But yeah, thank you for listening. And till next time, see you guys later. Bye.